Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
It's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Master Plo Koon in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Everything Geek, the podcast.
Hey, it's Leif Gamfert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldavar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Rory Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Rory, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have actor Gabriel Luna, best known for playing Robbie Reyes, aka Ghost Rider in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, Tony Bravo in Matador, Paco Contreras in Wicked City, Kevin and Bernie, Nate Hitchins in Dance of the One, Miguel Gilb in True Detective and Eduardo in Prison Break. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Rory. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. So, getting right into the questions, Gabriel, for some of our listeners who may not be familiar with your background, can you tell us how you got into acting?
Yes. Well, that's a pretty long story, but I'll try to give you the short version. Well, I mean, growing up in Austin, Texas, I was primarily an athlete. I was a very strong student, but American football, of course, was my love, and I played basketball and track as well. But I was an athlete throughout my youth and went through high school, and was about to go. I was the captain of the football team and had a football scholarship to play American football at some small universities: Alabama, Birmingham, New Mexico State, a bunch of others. And I dislocated my left shoulder in the third game of the season, and lost all my scholarships, and was at that point starting to consider other paths, and I had already been accepted to the University of Texas to go to business school, so I had resigned to the fact that I was going to become a business major and just going to do that. I still needed to find a lot more money for that. My mother was a single mother, didn't have much money, and I needed to go to school for free, so I started applying for grants and doing whatever I could to get the money to go to business school. And meanwhile, I was in a technical theater class where I was building sets for the actors and for the theater there at my high school, and that's how I was earning my fine arts credit. Because while I love to sing and draw and do all those other things, I didn't want to do any of those in front of other people, and I didn't want anybody telling me how to do any of those other things. So I decided I'd swing a hammer and get my fine arts credit. So that's what I was doing, and we read a play to learn more about the theater and what everyone's jobs were and what they entailed. And after we read this play, that the theater director, Mr. Sharp, God rest him, came up to me and asked me to try out for the play. And I told him no. I told him that I was a captain of the football team, and that even though I was hurt, I was still required at practice to help the coaches keep the guys in line, which was half true. That is what I was doing after school, but it was not required. So I told him, I made an excuse to the theater director that I wouldn't do it, and I couldn't do it, and I left. And this, of course, where the story takes a bit of a wild turn and pretty much set my life in a completely different direction. But that evening, my grandmother, my father's mother, my father passed away before I was born. My grandmother told me that she had some items that belonged to my father she wanted me to have, and that I should come to her house and retrieve them. And I went to go grab them, to go get them, pick them up. And she gave me this box. And I look in the box, and it's a bunch of trophies that my father had won. It's a bunch of his yearbooks that he had in high school and middle school. and which are valued still very, very much, prized possessions to me, because I learned a lot about my father just by reading the notes that his friends wrote him in the back of his yearbook. And then the most important thing in that box, of course, was a VHS tape of my father in a play that he wrote, starred, and directed for our church before I was born. And I watched it, and watching this was a very powerful moment for me, because this is the first time I had ever seen my father alive, the first time I had ever heard his voice. And there he was in front of our entire church, which was, maybe 100, 150 people. To me at the time was a massive coliseum to be playing in front of. And I watched this video, and I remember feeling a surge of confidence in that I could do the thing I was asked to do that very same day, because here my father was on this video doing the exact same thing. And so I went the next day and I tried for the play. Long story even longer. I got the part and became an actor, and we did the play, and a woman from a university in Austin, Texas called St. Andrews University had saw the play, and she told my mother that she'd give me a full scholarship if I would go to St. Edward's to be an actor. I had only done one play at the time, didn't really know much about acting, but I figured that's what college was for, and they would teach me, and they taught me a few things. But no more than what I learned in that very first audition. The moment I walked up, the very first moment as an actor, I guess you'd call it, I walked in, I was doing the scene, and the scene that Mr. Sharp gave me was a scene in the play where the lead character is standing in front of two unmarked graves, asking the this old woman which one belongs to his father. And I remember the thought I had in that moment, which was, I know what this feels like. I've done this before, and I can do this. And that's pretty much all I've ever needed. I've learned that's pretty much all I need when it comes to being an actor, is to try to live a full life and have good experiences, to where when you get there on the day, you're not a fraud, and you're not just faking it. You know what it feels like, and you know what you're doing. But of course, that doesn't necessarily translate to the ghostwriter, because I've never had my face burn off my skull. But in general, that's how I became an actor, and that's how I got involved, and I just continued doing that throughout my life, and it's brought me to where I am now.
Well, it's really an amazing story. I have to say, I've asked that question to hundreds of other guests I've interviewed, but your story there is one of my favorites. That's such a brilliant story.
Oh, thanks for.
And very touching. Like,
yes, sir.
I went through all the emotions when you were talking about your dad. Like, I could really feel it. Like, your storytelling is fantastic.
Well, thanks, dude. I've had practice telling that one. That one's it's the story I got. I mean, it's what happened, you know. So I tell people, and they I'm happy they have that response, because it's I could have easily ended up anywhere else, but I'm happy I am where I am.
Yeah, definitely. Were you aware of Ghost Rider's popularity before you were cast in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I was very aware of Ghost Rider's popularity, because I was one of his biggest fans. Of course, I grew up admiring the Dan Ketch version of the character. But what was fascinating to me, and what proved to be an exciting challenge for me, was that we were now dealing with a new Ghost Rider who wasn't quite yet popular, I'd say. You know, I mean, very, very few people knew of Robbie Reyes, and myself included. I had no idea that the new Ghost Rider was Robbie Reyes from Hill Rock Heights, and that he looks like me, and he has a little brother like me, and he was thrust into like a paternal role early in his life, like me, you know. So the fact that there was this character all of a sudden that I could represent, and who also represented me in such a great way, was thrilling and very exciting. And when we first got the job, people were wary of the fact that it was the new version, and he was driving a car, not a motorcycle, and all of the various differences of this all new Ghost Rider as opposed to the previous incarnations of the character. I think there was some work to be done to make him popular and to make him to draw in the audience and hopefully make them love him. And in hindsight, now that we're here at the end of the season, I think we accomplished that, and I take great pride in that, and I'm proud of all the people who came together to make Ghost Rider, because we took a character that it was probably half and half at the beginning in terms of people's excitement and people's the fact that there people loving it and then other people detesting the idea. And I think now here we are at the end of the season with pretty much consensus that everybody likes it. Everybody dug it, and they love Ghost Rider, and I love him too. And I'm happy that the popularity of the character has surged in the way it has.
Definitely. Now, of course, Ghost Rider played a large role this season, particularly in the recent season finale and also the first half of the season. Have you enjoyed developing the character of Robbie Reyes so far?
Absolutely. I think that he's I love his strength. I love his strength, his silent strength, specifically. I love he has a lot of love in his heart, for his brother and for his neighborhood, and he's a character that has a lot of soul. And even though he sold his, it doesn't mean that it still doesn't exist, and it's still not a huge part of who he is as a character. So I just think that I've had a blast. I've had a blast playing Robbie. I think he's he's just a great representative for me as a person. I feel like he's intelligent. He's powerful, but he's also he doesn't exert his power over others needlessly, and he has a very strict, and you always love characters who have an honor code and live and operate by it. And so all of those elements of the character make him really fun to play, and I just love that there was only 12 issues of the comic before I started this job, so everything I was doing was an extension of the character and was bringing was expanding the canon of who Ghost Rider was and who he will be in the future. So I'm thankful for that opportunity, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. How does it feel knowing that you're the first actor to have brought Ghost Rider to the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I'm honored, man. It's an absolute honor, and the MCU is what Kevin and Jeff and the TV and film side together and everyone involved, what they've built is just, and I've said it in an interview before, it's just this marvelous universe that is running parallel to ours at every moment that we live our lives, So it's such an incredible construct, this thing that you can jump in and out of, you can pop in and out of at any time, and it's taking into account a lot of like, for instance, S.H.I.E.L.D. this year, what we were able to accomplish in terms of story, and have it mirror the culture and have it mirror the events of the day. And in our storyline, we were able to touch on, a lot of, you have your Inhuman storyline, and you have the segregation of the Inhumans in the Framework storyline, and the persecution against them, and the you have a lot of these really intense parallels to what we have, to what the political climate is today, and that's always been the case with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just these really, really great social notes that they're taking from the real world, and then and applying it to this universe that runs parallel to ours. Just the fact that I get to exist in both is a privilege and an honor, as I said, and I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is all the better with the Ghost Rider in it. So I'm glad I was able to be a part of that.
Definitely. Now, of course, and we will discuss spoilers, so I should put a spoiler alert warning for the listeners. The Season 4 finale, World's End, which aired recently, was one of the biggest episodes of the show so far. What was it like working on that episode, and how did you react when you read the script for it?
Oh, man. So I got the script maybe 2 days before we shot it. I had known that we were coming back. They had told me a few months ago that I would be coming back for the last 2 episodes. Ended up only actually physically coming back for the last one. They were able to they tapped my buddy Morgan, who's my stunt double and has been for the last 6 years. They tapped Morgan to come in and do that one shot where I come back through the portal in 421. But then, of course, I was involved through the entirety of the last episode, and I remember getting that script and seeing the Daisy Ghost Rider combo move that's in there. Seeing he steals Lucy and Lucy's barreling down the road again with the fire, and then of course that amazing moment at the end where you see how Robbie's power has ascended to the point where he can now freely travel between dimensions and worlds, and I just read all of that and I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I was hoping for, which would be an escalation of the character's prowess and his power and his an evolution in his power, and also in his understanding of his place in the multiverse. And it was all there. It was all there in the script. And so all I told myself is, just do it exactly as it says, and we won't screw it up. And sure enough, it came out better than expected, as it always does once Mark Kolpak and our amazing post-production team get all their mitts on it, and it came out better than I could have imagined. I just think everything about it was cool, especially that moment when Mallory as Ada/Ophelia or Madam Hydra. I'm not sure who she is at that point. I guess she's Ophelia. She vanishes, and then the Ghost Rider there just paces and is like a caged beast, looking at some small prey animal just scurrying about on the other side of the cage. He just can't get to her. And then the fury and the rage that builds up inside of him becomes, you can see it manifest in the flame in the head. You can just see it become this like raging, blazing inferno. Which was a really nice touch and great detail that Mark added, and they were able to preserve whatever the performance I had in my face with the skull, and to reflect the motion that was happening in the face through the flames, kind of blasting out of the skull and licking up at the sky there, and I just thought that was, I just had a little squeal fanboy moment when I saw that, and I think we all did.
Yeah.
But yeah,
definitely.
no, the last episode was excellent. It was really, really well done and perfectly tied up all of the 3 storylines that ran throughout the year, and just really, really impressive. Just really, really happy with it.
Yeah, definitely, and I have to bring up this moment in particular from the season finale, which is Coulson using the power of the Ghost Rider. Like, that came as a surprise to me. What did you think about that?
I'll be completely honest, that when I was reading the script, there was a moment where it's like, I had the same moment back when we did the first 8 episodes. there's a moment where the Ghost Rider goes into Mac, and of course we all know Mac rides a Harley Davidson, and I remember it's like, please God, please don't let them ignite his head while he's on a motorcycle, because I just felt like, you know, it's such an amazing, cool, awesome, iconic thing, the rider on the motorcycle, that I was, you know, that was just me being somewhat tentative about the fact that perhaps, you know, we were undercutting the Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes storyline. But that's when you need to know, you just need to trust your writers and trust these amazing storytellers, because it only added to the mythos, and it only added to the overall sense of power that the Ghost Rider character has, and it was really well done when we did it with Mac. And then we get to this point, and then again, you know, we have a situation where the spirit of vengeance is body hopping, and you know, and you of course you want your character to be, you know, the salvation of all of your friends and all the team and everything else. But the show is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the man is Phil Coulson, and that's just the truth. And I love Clark, and I love his character, and I love Phil Coulson as a character. Obviously, since he started showing up in the end credit sequences in all the movies, and I just thought it was perfect in the end. I think in the end, she had the ability to evade Robbie so many times. She's just going to keep jumping. She's just going to keep running, and Robbie and Ghost Rider realize this, and eventually are willing to cut a deal to do whatever they have to do to take Ada, to take Ophelia back to where she belongs. And I just think it was really clever. It was really smart. It was a really great way of having our hero, our main character, Phil Coulson, be the guy at the right time, and still do it in a way that makes sense story-wise, and still, you know, preserves and maintains Ghost Rider's power, you know, and his so I think kudos, you know, bravo to all the people who came up with that, because that was a tightrope to walk, and they walked it perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say has been your favorite memory from working on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so far?
There is no one favorite memory, but I can say that it's really just our crew, man. It's the enthusiasm and imagination with which every single crew member works, and I mean that goes from our writers to everyone, to our grips, to our special effects guys, to everybody involved. You get to walk around a S.H.I.E.L.D. set and just hear just awesome conversations, you know, work conversations playing out, where you're talking about, you know, blowing up a Zephyr, or or riding a four-wheeler down a hallway, or you know, having like 20 flame bars everywhere to make it look like a blazing, you know, make it look like the pits of hell. You know, you have all these really fascinating conversations happening all around you, problem solving happening at every moment of the day, with one goal in mind, which is to make this incredible fantasy world that we're building real. And I can't say it enough. I mean, they are the best crew I've ever worked with. There's nothing on par with that type of fertile, imaginative kind of storytelling ground that they build and they provide there. So I have no one favorite moment, but I can say that the whole experience as a whole was incredible, and I owe it to the cast and the crew and everybody over there at S.H.I.E.L.D. They really got something special over there. I'm glad they get to continue for another year.
Definitely. And what would you say was the biggest challenge you faced while working on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so far?
You know, I think probably would just have been, it just doesn't feel like a challenge. Not to sound like it isn't challenging work, but it just doesn't feel like work. I just, if I have to say, it would probably just be just the physical, just the physical challenges. It is a demanding role physically, and they were long hours, and it's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of technical aspects of the character. So you have to have great patience and great focus to stay in the mode you need to stay in while you're shooting a lot of these very elaborate and very technically difficult setups. So probably just the physical challenges of the whole thing. Night shoots, 14-hour days, 15-hour days. Working through to 5, because fire does look really, really pretty at night. So we worked a lot of nights. but yeah, man, I think that's, other than that, I wouldn't say challenging is an interesting word, because while it was very challenging, it's just so much fun. It's never really felt like work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's the answer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. My final question for you, Gabriel: do you have any upcoming acting roles or other projects that you would like to talk about?
There's a few things in the works, but what do I have coming out? Well, I guess I do. I have a couple of shorts that I did with some friends of mine. I did a short with Zelda Williams, who's a awesome actor, and this is her directorial debut. Zelda, of course, is the daughter of the famous, legendary comedian Robin Williams, and Zelda's been a friend of mine. We worked on this thing that she did called Dark Web. We were one of the episodes in this series called Dark Web, and then I did another short that I believe is doing the festival rounds with my friend Britt, who, of course, Britt Lauer. She's one of the stars of Man Seeking Woman on FX, and those are coming out sometime soon. And but other than that, I have a bunch of engagements. I'm actually coming out to your side of the pond in a couple weeks to go to Blackpool, and then spend some time in London for some Comic-Cons. So the next month or two, there'll be a few, publicity events and Comic-Cons and things like that. So hopefully I'll see some of your listeners out there on the road.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I hope you have a good time over this side of the pond for sure. That's very exciting.
Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Very excited. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I'm just going to ask you one listener question as well, because you mentioned you already knew of Ghost Rider's popularity, so I think this is an appropriate one for the last question. So Logan Pineacker wanted to know, leaving Robbie's comic book continuity aside, had you a choice, would you have enjoyed shooting the show with a motorcycle like Johnny Blaze, or would you rather stick with the car?
I think I love my car. I love that car, man. It's got a 440 horsepower engine under it, and then if the blower was working, it would be north of 700 horsepower. And the car is incredible. I mean, I think that I loved it. I just love that, Felipe, when he created the character, he wanted to do everything. I mean, he was being a bit of provocateur. Like when they gave him the only parameters they gave him is that they wanted him to be younger, and they wanted him to drive a car, and that's it. And so he got to build the whole character around those two things. And so the car was a very important part to I guess Marvel Comics, when they approached Felipe. So I'm happy that they were so brave in doing something that turned the character on his head a bit. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy zipping around on two-wheeled motor vehicles, but I just think that the Charger is just such a intimidating image on its own. Just the flaming wheels and the fire breathing out of the blower. It's pretty awesome. And there's mystery to it too. You know, you see it coming down, but you still don't see the scariest part. You know, with Blaze or Catch, you see the flaming skull, you see the whole entity as it's approaching. But with this one, it's just like, who is inside that demon car? And then when you find out, it just gets even more devilish. So I say to your listeners, Hell Charger for life, man. Hell Charger forever.
That's a very good answer. So that's all of our questions for you today, Gabriel. And hopefully we can talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, man. Sounds good.
Yeah,
Have a good day.
You too. I look forward to that, and take care. Bye. Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be returning for a 5th season in January 2018. It's been reported, without being officially confirmed yet, as far as I'm aware, that the show will have no breaks next year, so when it returns for a 5th season in January, 22 episodes will air in as many weeks, which is pretty exciting, even if we have to wait a bit longer for the next season. Time to wrap up today's show. Make sure to check out our podcast links. Check out our website, website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/EGP. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official Everything Geek Podcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/Everything Geek Podcast. Email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, www.facebook.com/Everything Geek Comiccast. Make sure to check out the hosts' YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/Separatist Check out Gabriel Luna on Twitter, twitter.com/IamGabrielLuna, and check out channel 1138 where we broadcast live from, www.channel1138.com. Geeks out, everyone.
Sky was supposed to be a little bit older, and I actually am pretty sure I lied about my age to get the part, because I was only 20 years old when I got cast, and Sky was supposed to be about, 27 or so. And
I was out of focus where I was going, but it was very blinkered, very much like a horse. I was led around for the first 3 episodes, so I wouldn't bump into anything, which I still did bump into a lot of things. And it was very interesting to do because